Hello, welcome to Gurukul's CAT 100 series, a series that's designed specifically to take you from your study room to the corporate boardroom. I am Prady Sharma and this is Verbal Mastery with Prady. Hey everyone, welcome back to the video. This is your passage for today. Now, in case you want to take this up as a test, all you've got to do is go on to www.thegurukul.org.in and click on the login button over there, which will redirect you to the sign up page, and you've got to sign up for the 100 days to CAT test series. Now, this is a free test series that's been designed specifically to keep you consistent with your quant, LRDI and verbal ability practice so that you can crack CAT 2025 in your first attempt. Now, without any further ado, let's get into the passage and questions. This is your first paragraph. Please pause the video here, jot down all the main points, and then we're going to go into the second paragraph. This is your second paragraph. Pause the video here, jot down all the main points, and then we're going to go into the third paragraph. This is your third and last paragraph, guys. So pause the video here, jot down all the main points, and then we're going to get into the questions. So this is your question number 1. Pause the video here, answer this question, and then we're moving into the second question. So this is your second question. Pause the video here, answer the question, and then we're going to move into the third question. So this is your third question. Pause the video here, answer this question, and then we're going to go into the last question of this passage. So guys, this is the last question of this passage. So pause the video here, answer this question, and then we're going to go into the passage and question explanations. But before that, please tell us in the comment box about your answers so that once I tell you the correct answers, we can cross verify and see how many of them you've gotten correct. Let's get into the passage explanations. So, what does the first paragraph talk about? One of the biology's most enduring dilemmas is how it dances around the issue at the core of such a description, agency. Now, what is this agency? The ability of living entities to alter their environment and themselves with a purpose to suit an agenda. So, basically what's he talking about over here? He's saying that biology has always been really fidgety about, tackling the question of agency. It's never been direct about talking about agency. Typically, discussions of goals and purposes in biology get respectably neutered with scare quotes. Cells and bacteria aren't really trying to do anything, just as organisms don't evolve in order to achieve anything, such as running fast to improve your chance of survival and all. In the end, it's all meant to boil down to genes and molecules, chemistry and physics events unfolding with no aim or design, but that trick our narrative-obsessed minds into perceiving these things. So basically what's he saying? Biology, typically any discussion in biology, okay, it gets very, very neutered. That means biologists usually, the traditional stance at least, is that biologists traditionally do not agree that things have a purpose. They do not agree that people can modify their environment or that people can modify the situations they're in to achieve a certain purpose. They always want to keep this down at the bottom level of how cells function. It's always physics and chemistry, the molecular interactions with chemicals that gives rise to certain events. Okay, now that we've understood the first paragraph, let's get into the second paragraph. Yet, on the contrary, that means now there's been a shift. So this is very important for us to note. Okay, so yet on the contrary, we now have growing reasons to suspect that agency is a genuine natural phenomena. So now we understand that, okay, whatever the earlier biologists thought of, okay, maybe that's not really correct. Why? Because we are having some kind of an evidence, they're growing reasons. So there's some kind of an evidence to believe that agency is a natural phenomenon in itself. Biology could stop being so coy about it only if we had such proper theory about how it arises. So coy, what does the word coy mean? Coy means pretending to be shy. Right, so biology should stop pretending to be shy about it, or it could start pretending to be shy about it. That means it could talk openly about it only if we have a proper theory of how it actually comes up. Unfortunately, again, this is another word for us to focus on, because now again we see that there's a shift in the idea. Unfortunately, no such thing currently exists. Right now there's nothing as such. What is there nothing of? There's no such theory that currently exists, but there's increasing optimism that a theory of agency can be found, and moreover that it's not necessarily unique to living organisms. That means what? This theory is not only for living organisms. A grasp of just what it is that it enables an entity as an to act as an autonomous agent. Autonomous, guys, what does this word autonomous means? Again, autonomous, we can break it down into auto and nomos, right? Auto means self, Nomos means governing. So something that has rules by itself, rules for itself, is autonomous agent. Altering its behavior and environment to achieve certain ends should help reconcile biology to the troublesome notions of purpose and function. So what do we understand from here till here? First things first, okay, we need to understand that agency does not need to be only about living organisms. And if we are able to understand how, what enables or what makes an entity act as an autonomous agent, as a self-governing agent, then maybe, okay, we can understand why it changes its behavior, what kind of purpose it has. Okay, then maybe biology can also discuss about purpose and function of different entities. So now let's go into the third paragraph. A bottom-up theory of agency could help us interpret what we see in life, from cells to societies, as well as in some of our smart machines and technologies. So what's he saying? A bottom-up theory, that means what? Starting at the very basic level to the topmost level. Okay, so if we are able to explain how things work at the very basic level according to agency, and then move forward till all the way to the societies, then we can actually think of agency more clearly. We could probably also see it in the smart machines and technologies. We're starting to wonder whether artificial intelligence systems might think themselves deeply develop agency. So again, the author hints that maybe we are starting to wonder that maybe AI could also have its own agency. That means it could have its own purpose. But how would we know if we can't say what agency entails? But the big question is, how can we even talk about agency of artificial intelligence or systems or societies if we ourselves cannot define what agency really is? Okay, only if we can derive complex behaviors from simple first principles. First principles means foundational steps, okay, foundational theories. Says the physicist Suzanne Still of the University of Hawaii at Manoa, can we claim to understand what it takes to be an agent? So unless we understand the very foundational level, okay, of what it is, what the agency actually does, we can only then tell what an agent really is. So far, she admits that the problem remains unsolved. That means still now we are not being able to give a proper definition to what agent is or what agency is. And that is why we need a bottom-up approach to solve this. Okay, now that we've learned about the passage, let's get into the questions. So the first question of this passage, according to the passage, the primary reason biology has historically been coy about concepts like purpose and agency is, so why has biology been historically coy? So this is talking about the traditional approach, not the latest approach. Please keep that in mind while you're answering this question. So A says, a prevailing scientific paradigm that seeks to reduce all biological phenomenon to aimless physical and chemical events. So in this, what is he saying? He's saying that the paradigm, the scientific paradigm or the theory or the knowledge, okay, that branch of knowledge, it always tries to reduce all interaction, all biological phenomena as physical and chemical events. Now this is true about the traditional theory, right? So this may be our answer. Now let's look at B, C and D. If we don't find a better answer than that, definitely A will be our answer. So B says the philosophical difficulty in distinguishing between genuine intention and random molecular interaction. Great. Nowhere in the passage has he spoken about a philosophical difficulty. So I can say that this is an out of scope choice. I can remove this. The historical influence of religious myth making. Where did he even talk about religious myth making in the passage? So this is also an out of scope choice. D says the lack of observational evidence demonstrating living organisms actively altering their environment. Again, clearly in the passage itself he said that there is evidence. Why do you run faster just to save your life? So there is some evidence demonstrating that living organisms are able to actively alter or change their environment, right? So this is an opposite answer from what's given in the passage, so you can remove this. The best possible answer now becomes A. So our correct answer would be A. Now let's go into the second question. The second question says, what is the author's primary argument regarding the current state of concept of agency in biology? So now he's talking about the state that's present currently now, okay? So A says that it is a largely discredited concept only used metaphorically in scientific discourse. No, it's not a metaphor. It's not just given as an example to show something or to explain something else. And first of all, it's not discredited. People are growing, okay, there's growing evidence about it. So this can be taken off. This is an opposite answer to what's been told in the passage. Now look at B, that while currently lacking foundational theory, there's growing evidence and optimism for its acceptance as a genuine natural phenomenon. Now this kind of reflects what we've learned in the passage, right? Although the basic, the first principles are not very clear, okay, people are still accepting and it's growing, right? There's interest that's growing around this, right? So B could be a possible answer. So we're just going to keep this aside for now. Let's go into C. that its existence is widely accepted among biologists, but its precise definition remains elusive. Elusive. Now this meaning of this word is nothing but unclear. Elusive means unclear. That's okay, that's great. So far the definition is elusive, but who told you that the existence is widely accepted among biologists? It is still just gaining, so it's not widely accepted, right? So here, this is what we call as a scope mismatch. Okay, so what he has told in the passage and what he has given in the option does not really match. So we can remove this as our answer. Now D, that it is unique to higher order organisms and cannot be applied to simpler life forms like cells or bacteria. Now had this been true, why are we looking at the bottoms up approach? Okay, why are we doing this bottom up approach? Obviously, if it's applying to cells, then we have to understand how agency works in cells and then go to organisms and then to societies, right? So obviously this is also wrong. The best possible answer right now should become B. So let's move to the third question. The example of cells and bacteria aren't really trying to do anything, just as organisms don't evolve in order to achieve anything. So this example, why did the author tell us this example? Now, look at A. Provide evidence for the physical and chemical basis of all biological processes. Now again, see, this example is given in terms of the conception of agency as biologists used to think. Okay, so this is not about how everything has a physical and chemical basis. It's about the thought of those biologists. So we can take this off. It's a very close answer, guys, but don't get confused. You have to remove this. B, suggests that primitive life form. Primitive means, you know, rudimentary, primitive, basic life forms. Okay, we can think of primitive over here as basic. Okay, like cells and all. So suggests that primitive life forms lack the necessary cognitive structures for purposeful action. Again, nowhere has he talked about cognitive structures that these cells and all have in the passage. So I'm going to talk this as out of scope and leave this. C. Illustrate the traditional biological stance of avoiding teleological language without specific scientific backing. So obviously over here we are talking about the traditional biological stance. That means what people thought of that time, right? And he is talking about teleological. What is teleological? Teleological means relating to purpose. Okay, so how can we talk about some language that gives me about or talks to me about purpose without any scientific backing? We need a proper scientific backing. That's what people used to think back then, right? So C could be a possible answer. This is a very, very viable answer for us. But let's look at D. Highlight the limitations of human language in describing complex biological phenomena accurately. Again, over here, there were no limitations in human language, okay? The definition in itself was not there, and the backing. Without having a proper scientific theory, we could not have concluded anything. That was the thought process at the previous time. So I can remove D. The best possible answer now becomes C. So let's go to the last question of the passage, guys. If you've stayed till here, then please drop a like, because that motivates us a lot to get these kind of videos for you every single day. Share this with one of your friends who is always on YouTube and who's looking at some random videos trying to gauge something or the other for his CAT 2025 preparation. Tell him that the right stuff is over here. Let's get back to the fourth question and the last question of the passage. Which of the following would be a necessary component of a bottom-up theory of agency as envisioned by the author and Susan Still? So if we have to start at the basic and then go forward, which of these would be a definitive thing that we should have? Explaining how complex purposeful behaviors can arise from simple fundamental rules of principles. So obviously this is what is talking about first principles, right? First principles of purpose. So definitely this should be my answer, but let's look at B, C and D also. Let's not just confirm here. Let's rule these three out, then we'll confirm A as our answer. So B, identifying specific genes and molecules that exclusively control an entity's goal-directed actions. Now again, over here, we're not trying to identify specific genes and molecules. Why? Because then all of these goal-directed actions or all the entities' goal-directed actions will irrespectively translate again to the physical and chemical processes. That won't show us agency, right? So this should not be my answer. Proving that all living organisms possess conscious mind and intentionality. Nowhere did we talk about the intentionality of, things. In fact, when we are talking about AI and all, we know that, or some intelligent machines, we know that they don't have a conscious mind, right? So in that case also we are talking about agency, we are talking about the bottom-up processes. So how can this be our answer? So this should not be the answer. Now D, demonstrating that artificial intelligence systems are inherently incapable of developing true agency. Guys, in the passage itself, the author has given us a hint that AI might also be developing agency, which is in direct contradiction of this option, right? So this will be an opposite answer. We can remove D. The best possible answer for us over here would be A. Thank you for sticking around till here. Please subscribe to the channel because new videos are going to come every single day. And also just go check out the Quant and LRDI videos. You'll have one new set and 5 new questions of Quant every single day in these videos. I'll see you in the next one.
Hope you enjoyed learning from today's session.
This series is designed to help you with your CAT preparation and practice daily. We are with you in this journey.
To watch the next video, click here. And to watch Gurukul's CAT 100 series, study room to boardroom, the entire playlist, click here.
If you learned from today's session, like, share, and subscribe.